Oh, what's up, everybody? Sean back here with another live Live to Roll. There's Enrique back. We got a good show for you guys talking to some veterans on here on Veterans Day. So if you guys have any comments, any questions, anything like that, drop them into the chat. We definitely love to hear from you guys. So we'll get into some quick introductions, thank our sponsors, and get into the show. So I'm Sean Fluke. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 21 years ago. Bobby, you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll let these fellas.
Yeah, let's go. I'm Bobby Rohan, C5, C6 quad of 36 years, living here in SoCal, Orange County, and I'm going to pass it over to some two people we need to salute today for Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. But I will give it over to Enrique. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Enrique Chavez. I'm a T7 complete. A little bit over 19 years, coming up on my 20th year. Like Bobby mentioned, I'm a veteran Marine Corps, uh, and happy to be here.
Great. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Enrique.
And Patrick, who's been on our show before,
Yeah,
about a
no, he
year
was
and a half
on
ago.
your guys' show, rolling.
Yeah,
So he hasn't been on the
yeah,
Tuesday yet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who's
a
two?
year ago about cycling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Patrick McNeff, I'm a T10 L2 completes 2 years, 2 months ago. And I served in the U.S. Coast Guard in the early 1980s. And really happy to be on board today. I was just at the VA today, and it's good to be around and talking about some of the things we have around us.
absolutely. Well, before we get going, let's talk about our sponsors. We got some sponsors to thank: mobility professionals and mobility professionals, or urology professionals and mobility professionals. Mobility professionals here in the Southern California area, if you're here, need some work on getting a new chair, even your catheter needs, hit mobility professionals and urology professionals. They are going to hit you nationwide to help you with any of your neurology needs, catheters and colostomy needs. You call them, see if they're available for your insurance, and hopefully you can get set up to the right people, because not only that they service the disabled, a lot of their employees are disabled.
okay, yeah, we really appreciate our sponsors. So thank you to them, and we'll thank them again at the end of the show. But the information is down below if you want to check it out. But yeah, thank you guys for your service, and happy Veterans Day to everybody out there. Um, what for you guys? What did originally motivate you guys to join the military, to go into service?
We'll go with
I guess
Enrique.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have directed it to one of you guys.
let's see. For myself, kind of growing up, I was kind of always drawn to the military. So as soon as I think I was 18, that's when Desert Storm, Desert Shield was going on, and so I kind of had an opportunity. And ironically, it was my mother that kind of gave me the wisdom. Was like, hey, you might as well do it now that you're young, otherwise you might regret it. So I ended up getting enlisted, and the funny thing about it was by the time I got to what we call the fleet, where you get to your unit, I missed everything. So by the time I got there, everybody was coming back from the Middle East, and then when I was leaving, that's when Somalia was kicking up. So, but
You hit,
nevertheless, it was an amazing time.
you hit
You know
fantastic.
what I was in and stuff. So,
So
um,
I do have a question about that, because it reminds me of this discussion I had in college. Um, and, I forget what class it was, but the teacher's like, feeling bad for those going over to serve their Desert Storm, because he goes, but that's not what they signed up for, to do something. And I'm like, I kept thinking, like,
uh,
are you crazy? When you sign up for the military, you know that at any time this could happen. And
right,
we had this slight little argument, like, I would think that me signing up would just mean that I'm available for that kind of service for war. And he
Right, right.
just said, because we hadn't been in something since Vietnam, that shouldn't have been the case. I just thought it was crazy. So being that there was Desert Storm going on when you signed up, did that make you nervous or anything?
No, matter of fact, that was kind of like the catalyst, to be honest. I mean, a little. The other part I guess I should have mentioned on my introduction is that, as you know, I was I've been getting my cure at the VA for 15 years, but I've been hurt almost a little bit over a little under 20 years. Um, I was also the National Service Officer with the Paralyzed Veterans of America, which is a veteran service organization that specializes in paralyzed vets. Right. I now work for the actual VA on the benefit side. So what I have seen, because I'm pretty I find it very interesting because you're correct. The military, we've been a volunteer service since 1975. So as soon as the draft ended, we became a voluntary service. So you kind of it's the understanding is yes, when you go in, there is a possibility something would happen. Now, in the meantime, from 1975 to 1990, when Desert Storm, Desert Shield, you had conflicts like Lebanon, Beirut, you had Grenada, you had Panama. Those were all kind of engagements. But since Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and obviously after 9/11, things kind of changed and stuff. But it's you, definitely you have to go into that mindset. I kind of it was interesting when I would hear veterans think that hey, I came in for the benefits. Like, yeah, but there is an understanding that you will get something might hit the fan and you might get called up. So it is what it is. So.
Yeah. How about you, Patrick? What
Yeah.
motivated you to join the military?
Well, it's interesting. Enrique makes me kind of laugh at my story. I joined because of a TV show called Magnum PI.
Ah,
Mm.
I used to see Tom Selleck. So I'm a 1961's kid, so joined in 1982. Was looking for a way to pay for college, and I had seen that guy getting on boats in Hawaii with these Coast Guardsmen, and I'm like, those dudes look like they got it easy. All you do is bring Tom Selleck back and forth to where he's got to go.
I love
I come from New Hampshire. We have 18 miles of coastline, so it's not like I had a lot of experience with the Coast Guard.
it.
But I had a Marine brother and a Army brother. And I really looking at both of them and how important it was protecting our country. I like the Coast Guard because they had a day-to-day job of serving the waterways in and around our country. Search and rescue, aids to navigation, and unfortunately, when I joined, drug interdiction. All my friends went off to college to get high, and the Coast Guard just started busting boats out in the ocean. I'm like, wait,
All your
wait, wait. I'm
buddies.
like, can I be the middleman since I'm already out here finding the product? Um, and once I joined, I realized I was perfectly paired with the right people. I love who the Coast Guard is and who they stood for. Only 36,000 in when I was in. There's only 50 now, which is 20,000 less than Ohio State, right?
Wow.
And much less than we have watching, a game at SoFi. So it's a very small family. It's similar to the Marines. It's not a big family, and
right.
it's wonderful. But yeah, that was my motivation to get in, was to pay for college, really, and that was the one that seemed most attuned to me. I never went to college. They taught me telecommunications. I've made my living off that, and I should have been out writing ad copy and doing graphic design for advertising is what I thought I'd do with my life. And now I put in cameras and Wi-Fi systems.
Well, that's
So
cool.
basically,
You did find your calling though with that, I guess. Just it seemed to
Yeah.
fit.
Yep, 100%.
Go ahead, Bobby. You were saying something. You got some.
no, I was just saying. So it seems like both were pretty much for the right reasons at the right time.
Yes. Yep, by far.
And during your, during your stay, what made you most proud of the times you were in? We'll go with you, Enrique, first.
I for myself, and I think a lot of the times you kind of realize, you realize after you get out, right? It's kind of, so both my sons are in right now, right? I have a son that's in the Army, and I have another son that's in the Navy. So we kind of hit all, three of the five branches. Oh
Yeah,
no, three of the six. Three of the six. Now we have Space Force. But it's interesting because I we have that talk all the time, because while you're in, sometimes it's kind of hard to kind of see it. But when you get out, you start realizing, how some of the cool stuff that you did while you were in and stuff. So I was in the infantry, so it's kind of one of those things where you just train and you train and you train, and you never really got to do your job, but you're there ready to do it. Whereas I think with Patrick, like, he was actually doing what the job that he actually trained for and stuff. So it's I wish I kind of would have been able to get, like, test
okay.
myself, and that's kind of one of those things where, um, I wish I would have got that part. But I did learn that, um, there is that kind of specifically in the Marine Corps. It's kind of unique because there is that really unique brotherhood. Um, and as you know, yesterday was the Marine Corps birthday, right? And it's like a really big deal in the Marine Corps. Like, I remember we celebrate no matter where you're in the world, they will fly out a cake to you. Um, and one of them, there's like all these ceremonies. I remember we're in the Philippines, and literally a typhoon's coming towards us, and they flew in a helicopter and a case of San Miguel beer, like like, not a case,
Wow.
a pallet full, on a helicopter. They flew it out, and so everybody got drunk that night, and the typhoon hit, and then the next day, all the chaos and stuff. But it's like, hey, we got to celebrate our birthday.
Yeah,
So it's like those little things that, like, you look back and you're like, you know what, it's actually pretty unique. So
mm, yeah.
Uh, that is cool. What about you, Patrick? Any experiences like that, or anything that you're really proud of?
Well, our birthday was August 4th, and nobody in the country knows when that happens. So I'm jazzed that the Marines have such a proud heritage. It's one of the things that sets them apart from all of the others. For me, some search and rescue missions that we did, some successful and some unfortunately not. That was the epitome of what you want to do. And Enrique, I'm really glad you didn't get to test yourself. Um, as much as you wonder, what that would have been like. I'm really glad you're safe and you didn't. But for us, getting out and going through some hurricane weather to try to bring some people back in that were in distress. That was some of the best times. Was the challenges and worrying. There used to be a motto in the Coast Guard: you have to go out, you don't have to come back. It's like, look, you got to get out there and you got to try to save folks. And when I was in, that had changed, because they're like, no, you're on a $15 million boat. You're not destroying this to try to save somebody. And I didn't agree with that. I used to get frustrated going, no, somebody calls, we go. Who else is there? It's got to be us. And the times when you got told you couldn't go, that part frustrated me. But getting out and doing search and rescue was the best part of for us, for all of us, just as men and as people on this planet. When you can help others, it's a great feeling. And when you're trained to do that in situations that make it tough to do, that's a great feeling.
So, Pat, just by chance, did you have to drop down into the water, or were you on the
I
boat,
was
or
on
were
a
you?
boat.
Yeah,
I was on a boat, so it was trying to get that boat out through heavy seas without rolling our own boat, which was I was on a 140 footer, and we were still very close to capsizing for almost an hour and a half trying to get out of some challenging weather. And then it was launching a boat, a boarding boat that we had, a rigid hull inflatable boat, 21 feet long, launching that into heavy seas and taking that toward both times that I was involved in a real rescue. It was going to another vessel that was in distress. And on both of them, we managed to save some of the folks, and some of the folks on each of those vessels did not make it. So it definitely, it was a wonderful feeling at the end for the folks that we did save. And you were still very saddened for the fact that you didn't get everybody involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be tough to not be able to get
Probably
everybody.
because in some sense, back in when you were on that end of it, Patrick, there wasn't a, we weren't in battle of another country at the time. Um, but you were in a battle of nature in a sense.
Yeah, nature and the drug trade, unfortunately, it was still early. We didn't have the information, the technology we have today. Well, we certainly weren't just blowing people up as they were trying to get to us. So it was, you were going out and boarding vessels, and we were in that small 21-foot boat that we'd have to bring up alongside and get on board. I carried a riot shotgun, so I was the first one on board, had to hand my weapons to my crew. I would climb onto their boat, most of the time breaking a stanchion or two as the seas are going up and down. Never proud of that. And then receiving my weapons back, collecting everybody who was on board to the back, and then the boarding officer would come on board and he would conduct the safety survey while we were looking to see what could be wrong or what could be stashed. So during that time, that was, I didn't go in for law enforcement. That's not what I had signed up for. Yet here I was going onto boats and never once ending up in hostile territory, luckily.
Yeah.
But wondering if these folks, need to eliminate us to continue on their journey of bringing drugs in. So that was a nerve wracking part of it. And Enrique could have used you by my side, somebody who was more equipped for that environment. And that was new. That was new when I joined, so I had no idea that we were doing that when I get in. And certainly, if I had been land-based, I wouldn't have been involved with it. But my first year was on board a ship off the coast of Virginia and the Carolinas, and we did quite a bit of that.
Yeah. I know we want to get into like the VA now that you're disabled, and I know both of you weren't disabled in actual duty, but quick question for you, Enrique, with mentioning you have two boys that are serving. Um, what's that like as a father? I mean, you serve, so you kind of have a little bit of sense, but are your nerves high with the state of what our country has been in for the last 20 years?
Yeah, it's been kind of it's been interesting because the oldest, the one in the army, he matter of fact, he just got back in August. He did two deployments to the Middle East. This last time he was in Syria, Kuwait, Iraq, and Jordan. So he was kind of going rolling around, and that's when yeah, all the stuff that's going on with Syria. And he had been to Syria 2 years prior, and that place was a hothead back then because like the Russians were there, everybody, Iran, the Hezbollah, all these factions were down there. So it was kind of interesting. He had a front row seat. And then my little one, but as growing up, that kid was always kind of always knew he wanted to kind of go that route. The little one
Mhm.
that went to Navy, he's the one that completely surprised me. But then again, they both kind of mentioned that when I was a service officer, pretty much anytime I went somewhere, if I saw somebody in a chair, I'd be over there, just like you, Bobby, right? Or it's what a lot of people understand is that our the SCI community is actually very small. Even here in LA area, Orange County, whatever, we're a very small community, so everybody kind of knows somebody. So I'd be at a Dodger game and I'm talking to them, and the next thing they know, they'd be making fun of me, like, "Oh, Dad, you somebody you find that you can help?" And I'm like, "Yep." Um, and so they kind of grew up knowing that I had all I did was talk about benefits. And so for them it was kind of like a no brainer, I guess they said, especially the little one. He's like, That's all I ever hear you about talking is benefits. So, and they kind of grew up in the VA with me. So I would bring them to volunteer. When PVA and then Triumph would go in there and we would do all this joint stuff. They're in there stuffing envelopes and doing all kinds of stuff. So
Oops.
Oh, you might have got a call sometimes on the phone. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it says you muted yourself.
okay, sorry.
There you go. Got it.
There you
Okay,
go.
sorry, I got a call. It's kind of one of those things where I'm proud that what they're doing, um, definitely. But yeah, obviously in the back of your mind, you're like I said. I remember when I was 20, I was like, oh man, I want to do what I did, But it's different when it's your kids, right? It's like, no, I don't really want them to get kind of involved.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of, Tristan, the oldest one, he's getting out soon, in a month. So he starts his new chapter in his life, and then the little one in the Navy, he still has 2.5 years left. So, um, he, um, kids in intelligence, and so it's a very interesting MOS or job, or rate, what they call in the Navy and stuff. So.
I didn't set when we were thinking about guests, and I don't think we set it up, but this is kind of like a perfect segue in the sense of your spinal cord injury and someone who served. It wasn't because of the active duty you were on, but you had it later after you had served. But you with working in benefits, Enrique, and then now Patrick, just still. Don't take this the wrong way, but fresh meat only just about 2 years. But I guess maybe you guys can both talk about that side of benefits that, you know, that you received after your spinal cord injury. So maybe if you want to give a little detail of what happened for your spinal cord injury, and then, Enrique, you first, because it's been over 20 years, almost 20 years, about your injury, and then how that helped play a part in your spinal cord injury.
Okay. Yeah. So, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I actually was a police officer, um, with LAPD for almost 11 years. And I ended up having an off-duty accident, and that's how I got my injury. Uh, at that time, in that era, and I think Patrick, he was in a little bit longer before me. Um, it was a different world, right? You would get out, you got certain classes. Hey, this is your benefits. But I remember it's like, okay, give me my GI Bill and give me my VA home loan, and that was pretty much everything you kind of thought about. I never thought about the VA, and when I say the VA, I'll kind of explain that part, because the VA, it's when you say VA, it's not. It's actually three different departments, and all three of them have a different criteria, right? But
Mm-hmm.
everybody refers to it as the VA. So I never thought about the VA as far as like the healthcare. I always thought that was going to be for the guys who got hurt in the service. So when I did sustain my injury, the VA never popped up in my head, just because I was out, probably 12 years after I got out. So I never even thought about it. It was sheer by accident, that a veteran came to my house. They saw my flag, and he starts telling me about, hey, the VA, the Spinal Cord Center, and he's like, he had never seen me at the VA. I'm like, oh no, I don't qualify for service. And then I happened to call the PVA, the Paralyzed Veterans of America, the service officer, and they're like, oh yeah, get your butt in here. And I have to tell you, it completely changed my life, in many ways. And because once I got in there, and it was probably 3 years after, that it completely opened the door of a completely different system. I'll tell you right now, you always hear bad things about the VA, but you never hear about the 99.9% of the good that it does. And I'm for one that'll tell you that my journey in the VA, was amazing. Um, it's kind of like, you know, when you first got hurt and you find those mentors, the first guys that you meet,
Yeah.
that they kind of change your life. For me, it was guys that you know. D McCabe. D McCabe was one of the very first guys that came in my all blue eye quad, and then Ernie Espinoza. Ernie, those two guys were the first guys that came into my room
Yeah.
and opened my eyes and stuff. And but once I got into the VA, man, and especially Long Beach, because Long Beach is the biggest spinal cord center in the VA. There's 24 centers, and I just happened to roll into the center. And at the time, and a quick story, my first week there, I met a World War II vet, because we still had World War II vets, right? And I'm a big history person, so here I'm talking to this guy, and he got paralyzed in 1945, and he's telling me how he's driving a Jeep, he's crossing the Rhine River into Germany, and he thinks he ran over a landmine. And I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, damn, this guy's 70 years post injury. 70 years. 70 something, like 71,
Wow.
72. And it was, I kid you not, it's like getting hit by a 2x4, because that was the very first time, and this was 3 years after I got hurt, that I realized that I can actually grow old in the chair. You know what I mean? And it completely changed my laughter after that. So I I was I was rolling around these heroes that and it also opened my eyes, as saying that whatever issues I was having, if it was UTIs and shoulder pain, all that stuff, is like I couldn't complain, because here are these old timers that have been doing this shit for 70 years, and it's like, nah, dude, I cannot complain about this stuff. So it completely changed my life. So
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Patrick?
That's awesome. I love that story. Similar to mine in the fact that I've I was out for 37 years before I ended up, on a job site in New England and fell 30 feet and was I live here in Southern Cal since 1987. And I was away from home and being cared for there. And if it wasn't for a caseworker who used to work with the VA, and my physiatrist at the time, who had just finished a 1 year stint at VA in Roxbury, Mass. And the two of them kept saying, "Why are you here? You belong there." And like you and Rick, I'm like, "No, I don't. I didn't get hurt. I stopped serving in 1986. This is summer of 23. That's not how the program works." And I said, "No, it's something called a catastrophic injury, and you now qualify." And it took 3 months to get accepted in, and I had incredible care before I got accepted in as what's ranked as the second best spinal cord injury rehab facility in the country, which is Spalding in Charlestown, Massachusetts, right behind Craig in Colorado. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the VA. I've been living in what's like a beautiful hotel and being taken care of by the best of the best with proven program, and they're the ones who treated all the Boston Marathon people that had got blown up, and they were on the news all the time because of that back there. And now we got to go to the VA, and like you, Enrique, you hear the bad things about the VA.
That's all right. We take a quick dog interruption.
Yeah, usually we have Bobby's dogs barking. Somebody at the door.
That would be my mailman.
Yeah.
So my wife must have intercepted the mail, because it would still be going on if it wasn't. So, I get to the VA after having flap surgery, and now I show up my first day at the VA, and my intake went on for hours. And everybody comes up to see me, and I got a psychiatrist and a cardiologist and a urologist, and all these people show up to see me, and I'm like, this is haberdashery. This is foolish. This doesn't happen in the real world. If you want to see that many people, it'd take you a year and a half of trying to get appointments.
Yeah.
And they discovered something that the others hadn't, which unfortunately was heterotopic ossification in my right leg. And they're like, "Oh, we're going to bring a scan in right now. We're going to get a mobile scan and scan your leg while you're laying here in bed." And and diagnosed and said, no, you've got this. And, this is, we're going to work on this while you're here. And this is all day one. I'm like, man, I was dreading the VA. Now, granted, the building was not the building I came out of, but my first nurse had been with the VA for 22 years. My second shift nurse, 17 years. The next one, 11. And my fourth nurse, finally, little Jess, she had been with the VA for 7 years. I said, what are you, new? Compared to where I was at Spalding, where the average tenure was less than 4 years, the VA has people that love the program, especially in spinal cord, and they stick with it and they're committed to it. And, they've got all this experience. So I felt that the VA was phenomenal. Then I come out here and I'm like, oh, Long Beach, come on. I don't want to go to Long Beach. I get there and the care in Long Beach is as good or better than Roxbury, which blew my socks off. And I have such a great team there. I was just in last month, spent a little time in for, old man, regular old procedures, and 5 days in there. And again, it's top notch. It's unbelievable. So life changing. I'm sure the same for you, Enrique, being accepted into the program.
Yeah, no,
It's
that
trying to get this in the free world would be completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. You guys had both really incredible experiences, and I know I've heard. When I first got hurt, I remember hearing some like horror stories, like VA things. But like over the years, I've heard so many people rave about how amazing things have been as well. So I'm like I feel like it's probably more on the latter of the more amazing. But maybe a few people, or at one time, maybe it was a little not as good, something. But it seems to be really great. So.
Well, because I was and Patrick, we must have crossed paths. So when you came in was when I was leaving as a service officer there in Long Beach. So, and then when you were at Roxbury, Roxbury is a third the size of what Long Beach is. So
Yeah,
it's a lot,
fraction.
it's a lot different. So, being the advocate, I was kind of involved in all this stuff when there was incidents and the weather, and just like anything else, there'll be incidents, you know, uh, hiccups, things like that. But it was a lot of times it was that was the importance of having like a PVA service officer there, specifically a person that's actually not only is also a member, right? Is actually a member of the club that you don't want to join, right? The spinal cord club. It kind of made a difference too, because I was also like a customer. I was also the uh, I had my first flap surgery a couple years ago, and I was there for 8 months, and that was the first time I had one. Uh, and what's very unique, I'll tell you this, because you don't see this. And Patrick, yes, you are still new, but the one thing that you'll get with time is it's very unique, because you don't see this in the civilian world and you don't see this in other parts of the VA. It's very specific for spinal cord. Is the thing is that you end up becoming like a family, because we get all our doctors, nurses, psychologists, social workers, therapists, all, and we have PTs, OTs, RTs, and we have KTs specifically for spinal cord. That's all they work, that's all they touch. And as you grow old, they're growing old with you. So you tend to go to the same ward, and when they were they're baby nurses, and now they got married and now they have kids. Like when I went in for my flap, they're asking about my boys because they know my kids, and my kids know some of the nurses. So they know everything about you. And it's very unique because you don't see that out in the community. You don't see anything. So they know when, hey, you know what, Enrique's not, there's something not clicking there. There's something going on with him. And they know you that well. And it's very, very unique. The other aspect about it, and I saw this time and time again, speaking with those older vets, is that we have our spinal cord unit, which is a unit by itself, and then we have what we call the tower, which is like that's where you have all the walkers, right? All the walkers over there. But you have ICU, DOU, surgery, everything. And I got to tell you how many times we had some of our older vets that they were in hospice care, and I can't tell you how many veterans were like, nah, I want to pass. I want to die in my unit. And we would do everything we could to bring them over so they can pass in the unit because they want to be around the people who actually knew them and cared for them and stuff like that. So it was unique. It was beautiful at the same time because they wanted to die around family, and the your caregivers were that was family for them and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
very unique. You don't see that anywhere else. So
Yeah.
I agree. The camaraderie that we experienced when we were serving is certainly
yeah,
there in more so when you're being treated by your VA. And even though I've only been treated by Long Beach, be coming up on 2 years in March.
yeah,
Um, you roll into the SCI ward, which is a roll-in clinic Monday to Friday, 8 to 3:30. It's open. You roll in, you get seen, and you don't get seen by just a nurse, and typically your nurse and your group, and Cam and my group. If you've got an ingrown toenail, you've got a wound doc down to see you. You've got a podiatrist to see you. They all know you. They're looking
right,
at you and going, hey, you look a little thinner, you look this or that. It is
hmm,
definitely family, and you're assigned to a group of folks that will care for you, as long as you're going to remain at this facility. It's not like you roll in and see somebody new. You see
Mm.
your people all the time. So yeah,
right.
there's a great comfort in that they know your history. And the annual exams are great, similar to my intake day, but there's a line of people waiting to see you. Not a
Instead
waiting
of,
room of people waiting to
yeah,
see a
you,
doctor. They're waiting outside. And I remember one therapist telling me, hey, all right, I got to be done with you because there's like 6 people waiting outside. And I thought they were
Right.
joking. And when they opened the door, there were people at the door talking about who needed to go next because they had to get back on that day. And I'm like, okay, this is awesome. So
That's
Yeah,
yes,
they do a they do a Rod Robbins, right? And it's like
yes,
15 minutes. Hey, the next person go in there. 15 minutes. Hey, the next person. It's actually
yeah.
it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds, it's like almost
that,
like I want to serve somehow right now and get into the
Yeah,
system, but I know you can't. But you know,
but
uh, go ahead, Enrique.
no, but I was going to tell you that the flip side of it too, like in my role, which is really good, was that just like they could tell that something was wrong with me, I could tell when there was something wrong with them. Right? Hey, what's going on? Hey, I would get the inside scoop and stuff like, hey, we're not having staffing, or they're doing this, or they're floating nurses from the spinal cord unit to the tower, or whatever the case. Oh, they're cutting back on this or that. And I had an open door policy with the director of the facility, right? And could go in there and snuff out complaints or try to find out, like, is this just a me problem, or is it uh, a policy issue or something that's happening out local, right? And I'll give you an example. This just happened to me probably 6 months ago. Pretty quick story. I use a super pubic, right?
Mm.
Uh, and I had gone through using ICs. I've gone through using Foley. Super pubic is the one that's kind of basically worked for me. I was impatient because I was having stroke like symptoms, right? I woke up one day, I was kind of dizzy. I started feeling my face, it was going numb. I'm like, oh no, my ass! I drove my ass to VA,
Yeah, why
and
not?
right? No, but you know what? I was good because there was no pain. I mean, just something like that. So I went it right into the ER within 15 minutes. They had me on a CAT scan. Um, and then they brought in a telestroke doctor, literally a doctor on an iPad and on a stand. I have no idea where she was at, but she ran the show. Okay, was this? So I ended up going ICU. Well, long story short, I'm in ICU. They put me down on the tele unit for telemetry, and I starting to get AD, right? Because I'm a T7, T6, so I get AD,
Yeah, you're
and I'm
right.
like,
That.
right there.
Right. So I started feeling the symptoms. I couldn't figure out what was going on because I was emptying out of my bag. But then the next morning I woke up and I'm completely soaked. And I'm like, oh no, hey, I have a UTI and my there's something wrong with the Foley. I need to change it. Well, they wouldn't change it in the tower. And usually a spinal
Yeah.
cord nurse who were all trained to do it,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
they couldn't come up. So I was kind of stuck in limbo because somebody, and the thing is, in my previous role, I knew the policy, but something had changed. Somebody had made a decision, some freaking bigwig that, oh, we can't do it, well, we can't do it. So they bottom line came up and said, a urologist has to change it. And I'm like, dude, I changed this at home by myself. And so nobody would touch it. Meanwhile, I'm ADing. Every time my bladder would fill up, I would AD, but at least I can kick off, right?
Right.
Through
Yeah.
the
It
urethra,
was coming out
right?
somehow, at least. Yeah.
Right, right.
Whether
It's
you,
gonna come out somewhere, but I would get cleaned up. I'd start getting AD. Boom, I'd kick off, right? And then it kept going on and on and on, and nobody would do it. So I got to a point where like, okay, screw this. I thought about cutting the tip of the
yeah.
urethra. No,
Yeah.
no,
Well, I was like,
of
wait,
the
what?
Foley.
Yeah. The
Right,
catheter.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut the end of it and
And
let it
just
come out.
pull it
Now
out.
force them. Yeah, force them. But as you guys know, when you take out that supra, that bladder will close by itself in 20, 30 minutes. It'll completely close itself. So then I thought about nah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna leave AMA. I'll leave AMA and I'll roll my butt over a spinal cord into the clinic that Patrick was talking about, and then I'll do it. So after I did that threat, they came out and they fixed it. So those are like kind of they changed it. Those are the kind of those things. And then after that whole thing happened, dude, I sent an email to the director. I'm like, hey, dude, because if I was a quad, can you imagine a quad, a high
Yeah.
upper quad, and that happened, or their bowel care is impacted, right? And they're starting to AD, and they're thinking this guy's having a stroke or he's having a heart attack, and I'm like, nah. Whoever made this, somebody in the management made this decision. Nah, so we ended up fixing that issue, but that was one of those cases where I was glad that I was kind of like the secret shopper, where it was like,
Yeah.
nah, this is bullshit because
Well,
somebody's gonna die with something like this, but
Yeah.
because
Enrique,
somebody in management, you know.
you got some power right now because Sean would know this because I don't have to usually use the restroom while we're doing this show, but you made my bladder just kick off so bad right now that my ears are ringing. So I will be right back. So Sean, if you could just help me out, I'll be right back.
No
So
worries. I can see Bobby's bag is full on the back. Should
It's them quads, man. It's the quads.
That's no,
Yeah.
I've done that before plenty of times too. And I've actually, when I was first injured, I'll just quickly, I had to go to the emergency room because I was like, I just got my suprapubic, but it had gotten blocked up, and it just like, but the ER they didn't know what to do with me. They were like literally
Right.
like they did not know what to do. My blood pressure was like my normal blood pressure was like 85 over 65, and I was up at like 185 over 60.
Oh shoot. Yeah.
So like averaging like the whole time, and yeah, it was just a nightmare situation that they ended up giving me an epidural into my spine, and I was like, that doesn't. Why would I have a
Wow.
spinal cord injury? Why would you give me a spine? It's not going to affect
Wow.
me.
Wow.
So there was all kinds of stuff that happened, but it was, yeah, no, those are really good things to be able to make changes on. So I'm glad you
No,
were able to.
but that's and that's why it's kind of these podcasts are good because a lot of times people don't understand that they also have to be their own advocates, right? It doesn't matter. You have to educate people because contrary to popular belief, most providers they don't know what dysreflexia is. They don't know what
No.
AD is, right? So you have to be able to explain that, or your caregiver, or your spouse, your loved ones, are have to be able to explain that hey, there's something like the first time I ever had it was I was using a Foley, and I was getting these massive headaches, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I go and I touch my leg bag, and I'm thinking, you know what? My leg bag, it should have been full. And
Yeah.
so I'm thinking, oh shoot, this sucker's clogged. So I went, transferred into the shower. By that time, I'm starting to shake. I'm super hot. Um, and then at that point, that was the first time I ever cut a Foley. And so I cut the tip off the Foley, and it shot out, and I must have peed, I kid you not, for a good 5 minutes, just nonstop. So I don't know how extended my bladder was, but
Yeah.
then that was the first time I was like, you know what? That's what AD is, right? And I never, after that I was like, okay, now I always check my leg bag. But that's ICs never worked for me. Foley's worked for a while, for several years, but the super pubic is probably the one that's worked for the most for me. But you still get issues with them getting clogged. You still have issues
Yeah.
with, stuff like
What
that.
size do
But
you use, Enrique, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what's the
I
French?
use a 20 now,
Oh,
and
okay.
and obviously, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of having a Supra, right? Because you could keep going up sizes. Like, I know dudes that have 24s. It's
That's
like having a garden hose.
that's what I
That
got.
sucker. That sucker. Is it? The sucker doesn't even bend, dude. It's like straight up like that. Straight up. But it ain't gonna clog. It's not gonna clog, right? The sucker's so
No,
big.
it does on
But
Sean, I think,
Yeah,
right?
I have clogged it before. Yeah, I have. I
have
have a
you
lot of
really?
set. I have a
Damn.
lot of sediment. Yeah, yeah, I do have a lot of
Yeah.
sediment. So I change it every 2 weeks though now, and no issues, no clogging, and we got
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
better, healthier diet too, thanks to my wife. So that helps a lot
Yeah.
too. Less sediment from a healthier diet. Drinking more water, staying hydrated, and but yeah.
What is great about this show, no matter what we try to be serious, and this is, dedication to veterans, it always comes back to pee and poo.
Being poop,
I
Oh,
know.
baby.
dude. I would tell new injuries. I would tell new injuries all the time. I'm like, it's so weird because and it doesn't matter if you're even females, right? It's like you're talking to them and they're new. And it's like, dude, within 10, 15 minutes, you're talking about bound bladder. It doesn't matter. Like shit, you wouldn't talk about anybody. Like, hey, bro, what are you using? Oh, I'm using this. And even the females, it's hilarious that you're sharing all this stuff and there's like no, uh, there's no, oh my God. Yeah, there's no,
The,
you're not embarrassed and
no.
then Bobby, you've been hurt for a while. So, I know, like, when I talk to the old vets, because I love talking to the old guys. Okay, so let's go back. I used to give a class, and maybe I can give the class in your show one days, because I used to give a class to all the new injuries, all the new staff that we would get. It was called it was Code Brown, right? So it was all about bound bladder. It was
Mhm.
all about bound bladder, but the whole class was when you got that when you had that Code Brown, the mother load, right? Not what not your regular code. No, when you got the mother load, and how
Mhm.
that would screw with your mind, right? Because I remember having that early on, and I didn't leave my house for like 6 months in the beginning, right? Because the bound bladder used to kill me. But I used to love talking to the old guys, and I would always ask them like, "Hey man, where's the craziest place you had an accident?" And it was, it might have been their wedding, on the first time they dated, the first time they were with somebody. But my biggest fear, and the one that always got me was, and ironically, is one of my bosses, was he told me he had a colostomy bag, and it blew up on the plane. So he forgot to like release the pressure or something, and it blew. He had a blowout. He had a blowout on the plane, and
Oh,
but
But
all those stories kind of give you and you understand, like, hey man, no matter how bad it is, somebody has had it worse, and it's just a matter of figuring out. And you know
for, for you, Patrick, I mean, you're newly injured. Is it that your case too with bowel bladder
yeah,
and things?
absolutely. And you all in attending groups has taught me so much, especially about travel. I went to Costa
oh
Rica this past spring, a year after getting out of the hospital, a year and a day after coming home. We flew to Costa Rica for a wedding. And that
nice.
I never would have done that without the information that I had gotten on, Triumph, SCI Boston. I'm still part of their support groups. You learn so much, being around our groups. And one thing, as we talked back to private care, then we got into VA care. The difference in the two for me when I first got into this private care, and I had great OTs, PTs, they wanted me to be able to go home and live a life. And the VA tried to get me back as close to the life I had before. And the VA is like, wait, you were a cyclist? Let's get you back on a bike. You were kayaking? Let's get you in the water. Let's do the things that can kind of get you as close to what you lived before, not just living a life. Because sometimes, and we've all heard this, Enrique, you hear this a lot around the VA. I don't want to say old timers because there's plenty of folks younger than me. They're like, hey, I woke up today. I'm like, no, that bar is way too low. Yeah. Just waking up is not a life worth living. You gotta find the good in everything. And I wake up each morning, and my wife of 34 years gives me a kiss, and sometime an hour and a half to 2 hours later, after I'm done my morning program, my dog is on my lap, and I'm headed off to get my first cup of coffee. There's three reasons that you should have woken up today. Not just waking up. Those days are long and hard if all you're thinking is waking up is going to be it. Get some things done while you're here. And the VA has really helped me to get some of those things done and to try to get close to that old life. And I love being around Triumph and at the VA today and chatting with these people. One gent that rolled into our meeting in his hospital bed. They had to roll him in the bed. And I hung out and chatted with him, and we got to share our stories and support, and ended up exchanging information. It's like, yeah, being around these groups brings you so much power. And then Bobby, meeting you and learning about how much cycling you do, even though so far I haven't broken any bones doing mine.
Technically, it wasn't my cycling. It was a scooter.
It wasn't even cycling, and you broke a bone.
Yeah, that's what sucks.
Yeah, I think that's another. I want to reenact that entire day. That should be another episode here where we can get some, maybe cartoon the whole thing out. But really, it is getting to live a life that's worth living is the ticket. And I think the VA has certainly helped me achieve that with my first bicycle, a Baytech hand cycle that attaches to this chair. They called me and said, we just talked to Mike Young. We all know Mike. And just talked to Mike, and Mike suggested Baytech for you first while you're waiting on your hand cycle. 3 weeks later, I'm in a Baytech. Who's out there doing that? Who's out there looking for Patrick's recreational peace of mind, which, by the way, is a huge part of my mental health and my ability to live this life, is me being able to be recreationally active, which is close to what I had before. And I love that this group really is concerned about my overall well-being, my mental health.
And the greatest story I heard from that, Patrick, is you and your wife had mentioned to me, here's Patrick on his new hand cycle going up and down his neighborhood, and all the kids love to watch him do it. Eventually, the kids were coming to his door, knocking on, and his wife answering the door, and they're like, can Patrick come out and play? Like,
I love it.
Is that amazing? Like, hey, didn't see it as like, oh yeah, we don't want to bother him, but it was more like, can you come out and play? That was the greatest thing I've ever heard.
I have many videos and pictures of them as they show up at my ring cam. There it is. There's Owen. There's Elliot at the front door. They just came over and took a picture for us this morning before we left for the VA. My buddy was out from New York, and these kids are always in the street. It's like, hey, get over here, photographer. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. But I've had them. I'm a bike mechanic part-time, or amateur, I should say. And I've had them over working on not only their own bikes, but working on my hand cycle with me and teaching them. And in that time I spend with those kids, they ask such innocent questions, things adults would go, hey, sorry to impose or, to go too deep. The kids don't at all. Hey, Patrick, how do you pee? I don't know, next to a 7-Eleven like all the other homeless people. and it's amazing. And that was on one of our bike rides around the neighborhood. And at the end of it, I pull into the driveway, and there's the twins and the two boys are out here. So I got the four kids who are 9 and 10 years old, and I'm like, "You let me know what ride you want to start talking about poop." And they were all laughing, and they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "You go talk to your parents first, and then yes, if you want to go there, we're gonna get an education." What I love about this is that I have a 3-year-old granddaughter as well. These kids and my grandchild are going to grow up more aware.
Yes.
They're going to know the difference between jump in and push somebody, ask a
Yep.
question, or ignore it because you feel uncomfortable. They're going to know, hey, ask the question. Can I give you a hand here? Can I pick that up for you? They're
Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
to
For sure.
weird about it. And if they have classmates or coworkers or people that they run into in the wild, they're already going to have gotten past that point. They're already comfortable seeing this, and they see me get from my chair into my hand cycle. It's getting prettier. This is pretty anyway, but that's not pretty. It's getting better, but they see the struggles. They've seen it, and they've seen me down on the mat. They've come to the door to ask me out to ride when I've been on the mat, doing push-ups and stretching. So they see what this looks like, when you can't move your legs and trying to do simple things. So they're going to be past that. And I love that all of our families, and Enrique, your two boys in the service, I gotta think, if you've got enough, if you're that type of person that would have joined the service and served, you're going to be a beast around people that are in our condition. You are going to be phenomenally equipped to aid when needed, to smarten up others who are, not doing the right thing. I think they're going to be fantastic advocates because of what they've seen with you. I've got a daughter that's a teacher, and she's involved. She sees kids, on a daily basis that have needs, and she's already been an incredible human, but now she's got a different take on it as well. She knows the backside of this. So that kid that shows up, the quad that shows up every day, she knows now a little more of how hard it is to get to the point to get in that chair.
Yep.
For mom and dad, that's not a throw clothes on the kid's bed and tell them to be at the breakfast table in 5 minutes. That's hours prepping a kid to get them to school. So I love that. I'm glad you mentioned it, Bobby, because the people around us that have learned from living in our universes and our spectrums are going to be phenomenal kids, and at least better equipped when they accidentally open a door or stand in the way if somebody says excuse me. We get it all the time where they wonder why you don't just walk around when there's plenty of room. Then they look over their shoulder and see the chair, and then they're like, oh, sorry about that. Like, no problem. You'll think about it next time.
We're winding down, and I'm just wondering. Hopefully, these might be quick. What advice would you give other veterans navigating the VA system for after having an injury that never tapped into it? And I think first I'll let you go, Patrick, but then Enrique, because you worked in the system under that for a long time. So, Patrick, what advice would you give?
Well, like Enrique, I didn't plan on using any VA benefits in my lifetime after I did not go to college. And now that I've been in the system, like we've all mentioned, being your own advocate, but anybody who is either currently receiving VA or is questioning whether they can receive, I think you go to Enrique's group. You go to the PVA, even if you're not paralyzed. You go there because they're a great source of information. They're great advocates, but boy, they know everything that's going on. And then I just, take advantage of everything they put in front of you. Your mental health. I told you all the people that wanted to see me. You got to be open to that as well, and just take advantage of everything they're going to offer you, because being vulnerable is something we all had to learn quickly. If we weren't, I was a 59-year-old guy that had been the doer in my neighborhood and everybody's lives. You know, you need a TV hung, you need cameras, you need whatever, because that's what I do. Your computer hooked up, your Wi-Fi. All of a sudden, I can't, I can't piss myself. You know, you become vulnerable, and just understanding that, own that vulnerability and accept what these people want to give you, and be open to what they put out there in front of you, because they offer an awful lot of it. So don't close down. Try things you didn't think you would try. I'm in therapy. I've never done therapy in my life. I'm sure everybody who knows me thought I should have done it much earlier in life. Um, it's wonderful, and faith sessions and all kinds of things that were not part of my previous life. And I'm a more whole human being now, even though half of me won't play physically. And I've never thought about that. I'm going to have to come up with something that's going to look better on a t-shirt. But I truly am a more whole person today than I was 2 years and 3 weeks ago. So, Enrique, I'll toss that to you.
I think Patrick, you hit the nail on the head. The one thing I always would tell new injuries is that uh, you're the same person you were before. You're just shorter, right? So it's I could tell that the way you are as a person now, that's the way you were before. Obviously, you know, this is completely life changing, but obviously, kind of, like I said, I've had the opportunity to meet people, and I completely understand that, accept the fact that somebody has it worse off than I do, right? And I tell that to every single injury, no matter how bad you think your injury is, or somebody worse off than you are. Uh, though, if there's anything I want to come out of this, is to tell everybody that ever listens to this podcast or not, is if you're a veteran, it doesn't matter when you served, it doesn't matter how long you served, you qualify for benefits. You're not taking anything away from any veterans out there. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this right now. They need veterans, because with Father Time, our system of care, the VA system, we're losing more veterans than we're gaining. Okay, because if you think about it, the numbers and the draft and all this other stuff, right? So you're talking all the World War II guys are gone, all the Korean War guys are gone, the Vietnam vet, they're all in their 70s and 80s, and then we go into peacetime and the numbers just shrink. Iraq and Afghanistan, those wars didn't provide a lot of veterans like Vietnam and all the other ones, because it's all volunteer. So if anything, the VA needs you to come, so you're not taking any benefits away from it. So if you're a veteran, if you're suffering from a spinal cord injury, ALS, MS, anything like that, anything else, just go to the VA. They when I first and I tell you, when I first tried to get benefits, I got denied, because there is an income threshold, but there's a back door to bring you in. And I was actually the first guinea pig that they brought in, because there's paperwork that needs to be completed for a thing called catastrophic disabled, but it can't be completed by a non VA provider. So how does that happen if you're getting denied? So what they do is they bring you in through the back door, and what a backdoor basically means is, hey, here's my paperwork from wherever, Rancho or Craig, wherever place that says that you're a spinal cord. You get that in, they bring you in through the back door, and they basically fill out the form, and boom, you're in. It doesn't matter your income or whatever. The thing about it is that anybody that's in the roof and the four walls of the spinal cord unit, in the VA, everybody gets treated the same. It doesn't matter if you're service connected or not. And what I mean when we say service connected, it means that their spinal cord injury or any other things were they're associated to what they with their military service. Okay, and then that's when I said that there's different departments. So when somebody says that, that has to do with benefits, which has nothing. I'm not going to say it has nothing to do, but that's a separate department, and they have something completely different. That's the world that I'm in now. But on the healthcare system, which is the VA system, that part, and we just hit the nail on the head as far as services. There's things like fee-based bowel program, prosthetics. There's a transportation system that gets you through to and from. There's just all kinds of stuff that's available there for you that's very unique. And then the other thing I'll tell you is that the history of SCI medicine that we know in the United States is completely related to the VA healthcare system and also PVA, to be honest, because those guinea pigs after World War II, that those guys after before World War II, if you had a spinal cord injury, you were only there, you were only going to live for a good 2 years, and that was it, because of UTIs and you know and sores and stuff like that. But with antibiotics and stuff like that, those guys started living. And at the end of World War II, there was about 2,500 paras, and I got to meet one of those guys. I was one of those guys that I met the first day I was at the VA. So,
Wow.
and the thing is, he explained it was all mental. Hey, you want to live, you're gonna live. If
Mhm.
you throw in the towel, you're gonna have a really hard journey. But that's just the way it's gonna be. So, but like I said, any veteran qualifies for service. So I just want to emphasize that. So
Yeah. And we're over our time, which is fine.
yeah,
We didn't even get into, the other side of the PVA games and what the sports
yeah.
side of it. I mean, a little bit with you, Patrick, that they wanted to get you active, but I mean, there's active, and then there's guys that are competing in these games that are at Olympic levels that will get you to the Paralympics.
Right.
Uh, that is just amazing that they provide, and how much they looking when there was a magazine. I think it was it Enrique PVA magazine or PN magazine that
There's PN magazine and sports and spokes too.
yeah, but
That's the sports side.
seeing like across the country of especially when it came to like shooting ranges to, I mean, you name it,
Hmm.
they dished it out and dished it out. We had a question, can we donate to the VA?
Not necessarily well, it depends. It depends on what they're talking about. If it's like equipment, stuff like that, no. If anything, you can try to contact the PVA and see if they could take it. If not, like Triumph, it's kind of matter of fact, our veterans. Here's another thing I explain to veterans a lot of times when they're coming in from the outside. And the thing is, I got to experience both the outside care and then the inside care. And I got to tell you, I'll take the VA care in a heartbeat compared to the outside care. But
Yeah.
I try to explain is that you'll get a Ford on the outside, but in the VA you're going to get the Cadillac as far as equipment goes. So usually I would have my vets donate equipment, stuff like that, to Triumph, because you got to pass. You got to pass it forward. So our
Mhm.
guys, even the VA won't accept equipment. Even when our guys pass or they have equipment, they won't take anything back. So it's usually what's theirs, and we usually kind of send it off to Triumph because I gotta tell you, man. I know Bobby, you guys are very involved with Triumph. I got my shirt on. Uh, I tell you, man, if I had that when I was first hurt, things would have been a lot different. But I'm glad that there's so many resources now that Swim with Mike, CAF and Challenge Athletes Foundation. If you really want to get involved, there's all kinds of organizations out there to get you going. It's not just the VA. There's plenty of stuff. The other big thing I want to tell people is that a lot of times when people get hurt and they have like student debt, right? They can get all that. There's a process to get all that wiped out because you have a catastrophic injury. And that's not just veterans. That's anybody, right? And
Mhm.
the only reason I bring that up is I helped somebody the other day. They just got to go through Department of Education, and they go through that and they can get all that stuff, all their student debt taken care of if they have
Wow.
an injury like spinal cord and stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff that we can have a whole nother show just on just those things like that. So
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Have you guys do like just a VA
Oh yeah.
benefits resource show? Might work.
Yeah.
Bring you guys back for that. But yeah, that's awesome information. Thank you guys for coming on tonight and talking about your experiences and sharing. And hopefully everybody out there is having a happy Veterans Day. And we all do really appreciate your service.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you were able to make it on this day, on this special day as well. Thank you for your services.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Hey, thanks a
opportunity, and
lot.
thank you to all those vets out there.
Hey, Patrick, we gotta bump into each other, man. Sorry we haven't met, but we
Absolutely,
haven't just crossed paths and stuff. So,
we'll make that happen. I'll get your contact info through these guys.
all right, guys. Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
I'm going to go ahead real quick before we end the show. Thank our sponsors one last time. I want to thank mobility professionals and urology professionals. Enrique mentioned Dean McCabe earlier. He is one of the people that sponsors us. He is part of both companies, mobility professionals. So if you do need any mobility equipment like a wheelchair, a commode, standing frame, and you're in the Southern California area, please contact them and they will help you out with everything, take care of insurance and all that stuff. And then Urology Professionals is nationwide. So if you guys need catheter supplies anywhere in the country, they can ship them directly to your doorstep. And like we mentioned before, Dean, everybody there, great people. They really do give back a lot to the community. They care. They support stuff like us as well, and Triumph, obviously, all the time. So we really appreciate their support. And thanks everybody that's watching and supporting. We really do appreciate all you guys' support. And again, just really want to thank all the veterans out there and for your service and yeah, just we wouldn't be America without you guys. So this is
Yeah,
Bobby. Anything else?
No, just once again, thank you. When I called out to get these two great guys, you're the first that I thought of, and the special bond that we have created over the years with Enrique and short time here with Patrick. We had a lot of common when it comes to cycling, and but it goes to my family members who are no longer with us, my grandpa and my uncle, who had served as well, and after my injury had definitely looked up to me. And it's funny because when my uncle was passing, we were down at the VA by Riverside. Enrique, is that?
Yeah,
Or is
Loma
that?
Linda.
Yeah, and I was outside crying, for my uncle who's, passing, and people were coming up to me, thank you for your service. It's going to be okay. It's like, oh, okay, no, it's not that way, but it was too long of a story to correct them, but the support that VAs support one another. That's what I'm really talking about. It's great that, I think some of us at times, and I think you mentioned it, like those services were only meant for if you were in the service at that time, active duty. And it's not. And it's, those are the benefits that pay off for such a long time afterwards. That without you serving in Reiki, you would have never been a policeman. Without the communications you did on the Coast Guard, you would have never been in communications, Patrick. So not only that it serves to protection our company, but it serves you to be a better person, to move forward with life, especially when some of us young guys not sure exactly what we want to move towards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great vehicle. Appreciate the opportunity again, gents.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you. I'm sure we'll have you back again. Thank you, everybody, again for watching. We appreciate everybody here, and live to roll, everybody.